What's going on, guys? So in this video, we're talking about cheap fragrances. That's right, one of the most popular topics on this channel, basically. And in this particular video, it's cheap fragrances that I find to smell a bit more expensive than what you can actually get for them. In some cases, much more expensive than what you pay. So I want to cover these 10 with you, and hopefully this will be some good recommendations to maybe put on your list of things to try. Who knows? But let's talk about it. Stay tuned. Starting with one of the most popular cheapies that tends to smell much more expensive, because I paid 30 bucks for this 60 ml from Discounters Online. I want to say it was Fragrance Net if I remember correctly. You can get 100 milliliter bottles in the sub $40 price point online. We're talking about Montblanc Explorer, a serious hype beast in its own right. Known to smell similar to Creed Aventus, it definitely has its own take. It doesn't smell identical, but it definitely walks the path of Creed Aventus. A lot of bergamot, a little bit of an ambroxan smell. It has a little bit of a leathery feel. I don't even remember specifically if leather's in there. I want to say it is, but has a bit of a leathery nuance that provides kind of this darkness. There's no smoky tones. There's no black currant, but it does give off that similar smell. Obviously, the pineapple is non-existent in this fragrance, but it doesn't really need it. It kind of has this smooth appeal, even though there's a little bit of ambroxan in here. It's smooth for the most part. This is one of my wife's personal favorite fragrances for me to wear that I actually don't wear enough, according to her. So Aventus is known to be the not to be the most complimented by the ladies, but I can tell you firsthand, my wife absolutely adores this. Like I said, not one-to-one with Aventus, but definitely Montblanc's take on it, and a great bargain, fantastic bargain. We're talking about Montblanc Explorer. Next is a bit more flamboyant and unique. This is one that can be found in the sub $50 price point. 100 ml testers like this can be found around 40 bucks. The only difference is it's a white tester box. We're talking about Moschino's Toy Boy. That's right, the wild teddy bear bottle. This is a rose-based fragrance. So if you're not a fan of rose, you probably won't like this, but it is kind of a different and slightly bold choice, to be honest with you, compared to some others. Fantastic pressure-sensitive atomizer, as you saw. There's a lot of freshness. It's got this juicy, watery rose at the top. It starts to settle into more of a fresh, spicy type of accord, which makes the rose a little bit more spicy. And then there's a few other things going on, but it's mainly this fresh and spicy rose scent profile. It doesn't drastically change. There are subtle nuances to the fragrance through its life, but it's definitely dominated by this rose. Like I said, if you don't like rose, you won't like this. Does not smell cheap and synthetic. I've had, many people tell me it's amazing what you get for your money, and I've seen people compare it to potentially being affordable niche as far as the quality of the oils. While I wouldn't necessarily go that far with it, I would say it definitely does not smell like the $40 that's going rate for the tester bottle that I paid. Definitely smells more in the $100 range, and performance is fan-frickin-tastic. This is one that if you overspray, can be cloying, can be room filling. It can definitely make a statement. Some people are looking for that statement maker, and Moschino Toy Boy, for the money, it's a damn good statement maker. Next, we have a cheap blue that doesn't smell like a cheap blue. This is one of the better blue fragrances that has come out in the last few years, in my opinion, and you can get it anywhere from $30 to $50. I paid $30 for a brown box tester. We're talking about Rochas L'homme. A lot of juniper. If you're not a fan of juniper, you may not be a fan of this one, but this beautiful, bright, aromatic juniper, a nice minty geranium. There's some fresh greens in the backdrop. There's a little bit of citrus at the top, but not a heavily citrused top note. And then a lovely dose of woods in the backdrop. On the dry down, there's a little hint of creaminess. Like, there's a lot of stages to this fragrance. More so, a lot of subtle nuances. It doesn't drastically change in stages. So that was the wrong choice of words for me, but this is lovely. It performs above average. It's not a beast, but it definitely will stick for most of your day to where you don't have to respray 2 or 3 times. If you have a very, very long day that goes beyond 8 hours, then you might need to feel the need to refresh. But if you're having, 8 to 9 hours of your day before you're going to be taking a shower or moving on to something other than being at work or whatever you're doing, you should be fine. The longevity, like I said, well above average without being beast mode. And I paid $30 for this fragrance. And trust me, this does not smell like a $30 to $40 fragrance. This has less of a synthetic vibe than most blues, especially blues that tend to feature heavy isoe super, heavy amberwood, or heavy ambroxan. It's not a heavy feel of any of that here. I don't recall if any of that is in the base of the fragrance, but if it is, it's subtle and it does not take over at any given point. So there's nothing screechy, nothing rough around the edges, nothing chemically synthetic about this to my nose. This is just a fan-frickin-tastic, super, hyper, mega versatile blue fragrance that you can get, like I said, for around 30 to 40 bucks. And damn sure doesn't smell like it cost that. You know, it's Rochas L'homme. Next, this is a smaller, lesser known French niche brand that you can actually get their fragrances in the $40 to $50 range from discounters online. I've recently seen Kingdom Fragrances is carrying a few of them, and this is one of them. And this happens to be my favorite from the house. We're talking about Bon Parfumeur. This is number 301. Had this one for a little while. It's been 2 or 3 seasons since I've worn it last. At the recording of this, I need to remember to pull this one out this fall. It is a beautiful fall fragrance. A lot of dense and not overly creamy sandalwood, lovely warm dry amber. It dries the fragrance out a little bit, and it's a slightly dusty amber, not a heavily powdery smell, but a little dusty. And then you do get this lovely spiced cardamom, provides a little hit of sweetness, but a lot of spice. It's a spicy warm amber, woody based fragrance. It's a simplistic note breakdown, but I tell you what, this stuff smells fantastic and of top tier quality. And this is another one that performance I wouldn't put in the beast mode category, but I would put well above average in that 7 to 8, even 9 hour range of longevity with some pretty stout projection in the first 2 hours. This is a solid fragrance. I have a few fragrances from this house, and this is my favorite. Not overly complex, but has a nice character to it, a good presence without being overdone. Beautiful fragrance. Check this house out. I don't see too many people talking about this house. They definitely deserve a bit more spotlight, and it's a glorified luxury niche fragrance for under $50. Retail, not $50 obviously, but discounters online. Like I said, check Kingdom Fragrances. There's always a link down in my link tree. Right around $40, if I remember correctly, for a few offerings from the house, and this is one of them, and this one's fantastic. This is Bon Parfumeur, number 301. Next is kind of a rack store darling. You can find these. They're out in full force right now as far as Banana Republic fragrances as a whole. The Icon line. They're known to be really good fragrances that you can find in the $20 to $25 range. They used to be 20 bucks, now they're popping up for 23. Still more than worth it at that point. We're talking about tobacco and tonka bean. This one of the more hyped fragrances from the Icon line. It's in the realm of a tobacco vanille, but much more powdery. It's creamy, it's smooth. It's kind of a cold type of feel to it. If you've smelled a fragrance that has a cold feel in the scent profile that actually has a cooling type of smell, you know what I'm talking about. I think it's the tonka bean here, the way it was used, because there's no real earthiness to this tobacco, ever so slightly. It's more creamy and smooth. It's a very rich fragrance. It's sweet and powdery. Like I said, creamy and smooth. I love that about this. The way it's composed, you can understand, at least I can understand, why it's so hyped, why people get excited when they find it. I was very excited when I found it. It's a recent pickup for me, one I had been looking for in the rack stores for a long time at this point, and I'm so glad to have it. It's probably the best Icon line fragrance that they have. I know that's a subjective opinion, but it's just how I feel. The quality's there, the performance is there, the smoothness. That's the biggest thing for me. When a fragrance is really smooth, it's easy to enjoy and want to go back to, and this is definitely one of those. Does not in any way, shape, or form smell like a $23 fragrance to me. So check your Burlingtons. That's where they tend to pop up the most. They pop up at other rack stores too, don't get me wrong, but Burlington's the hot spot for Banana Republic, tobacco, and tonka bean. I've seen testers for $25 from Aura Fragrance, as a matter of fact. It was $25 or $28. On up to $35 is going rate online for this fragrance. It's My favorite fresh vetiver-based fragrance, we're talking about Lalique's Encre Noire Sport. I've featured this one pretty regularly in the last couple of months on the channel because I'm absolutely loving this one. It smells of quality. It does not smell like a $25 to $35 fragrance. Nothing about it smells cheap to me. It's watery, it's juicy citrus, it's nice and aromatic without being too soapy. And the earthy vetiver here is so well balanced by everything I just said. So it steers it away from being too dirty, earthy, and smoky of a vetiver. You still get a hit of that. There's a nice level to it to where it's not overly done. This is my favorite in the line. This is the most wearable, and I deem it to be the most versatile as well. Not just for the summer months, but definitely across the board, year-round. If you like wearing something fresh that's a little bit more on the clean and well put together side in the winter, this would be a great option. And of course, it works fantastic in the spring and fall seasons with more mild weather where it's not too hot, not too cold. You can pull off a lot of different scent profiles in those seasons. They're really the best seasons for fragrance lovers, and fragrances like this fit the mold. They fit the bill, and they do the trick for just about every situation. There's not a bad time to wear this fragrance, and it's actually one of the higher quality fragrances in this video while still being pretty much the cheapest fragrance in this video besides the Banana Republic. Like, it's one of the 3 cheapest in this video, and it probably smells the most expensive. Besides maybe 1 or 2 others, but you get the point. It deserves to be in this video. It's a poster child for this topic. Check this one out if you haven't yet. This is Lalique Encre Noire Sport. Next, we have another extremely affordable niche fragrance. This is my only from the house. I do want to dive into the house of Molinard much more. I paid around $40 from Kingdom Fragrance a while back for this one. I've noticed going rate for a lot of the fragrances in this line from Molinard are in the $35 to $50 range, and the quality is so good here on this one. I believe they're probably mostly fantastic as a whole in the house. We're talking about Figue from Molinard. I love this. It's super juicy. I've only worn it a few times this season. Super juicy and soapy fig. There's these marine notes to it that provide this lovely aquatic sea breeze type of feel. There's a nice layer of woods in the backdrop to kind of ground the scent to where it's not just too fresh and doesn't have any direction. The woods really kind of ground it. And performance is decent. It's not well above average to a beast. It's kind of in that average range, 5 to 6 hours. But for the freshness of the scent profile, I think it actually suits it for the most part. You can really expect 5 to 7 hours, I would say, is really the sweet spot of where it falls for me. Pretty much every time I wear it, I've never really gotten less than 5 hours that I can recall. And it's a beautiful scent profile. Extremely unisex. Fig lovers must try. This is a must-try for those that like fig-based fragrances. This is one of the more fresh, enjoyable, and versatile takes on fig that kind of is suited for the warmer months. The current season, at this recording, it's currently dead middle of summer. So it's one that I've been enjoying. I haven't worn in a few weeks. It's definitely time to throw it back into the rotation. But it does not smell like a $40 fragrance. This, like I said, it's niche quality. It smells well above $100. It really does. This is really good stuff. It is hands down my favorite fig fragrance. It overtook Carner Barcelona Fig Man as my personal favorite. I have a few other fig fragrances that I thoroughly enjoy, even on the designer side, but none of them, for my taste and what I like, can really hold a candle to this. It's hard to beat in the $40 range. I mean, this one's a no-brainer. It's a freaking niche fragrance that definitely does not smell like 40 bucks. Molinard Figue. Now, this is a Middle Eastern brand that I've kind of fallen in love with this year. This is probably their most popular fragrance at the moment. A lot of hype around this one. Vibes of Creed Aventus, vibes of Nichane Hachivat, without kind of being too much of either one. It kind of makes for its own fragrance in many ways. It's a black currant bomb. It's full of saffron that gives this leathery feel. We're talking about Afnan Supremacy, not only intense. The quality is top freaking tier on this fragrance. The performance is outrageous. God, it smells so good. I reach for this more than Aventus for sure. This has become one of my favorite Aventus type fragrances. Honestly, I think Montblanc Explorer smells a little bit more like Aventus than this does because it's so black currant heavy. I don't recall if there's any pineapple in here. I do get a nice hit of green apple at the top. Beautiful dose of green apple for the freshness in the opening. And then it, like I said, it quickly becomes all about blackcurrant and leather and oak moss. Very earthy fragrance, very grown man type of appeal here. I don't find it to be playful in any way. I could see where some may not enjoy this. This is a more serious take on the style of Hachivat, more so Hachivat, because that's more of a polished fragrance because it's so oak moss heavy, whereas this one's very oak moss heavy as well. I think that's where the similarity to Hachivat comes in the most, whereas the blackcurrant is going to tie you into Aventus more, but it's understated how much of a saffron note is dominant in this fragrance. I don't think enough people really point out the heft of the saffron. The saffron has a leathery feel here to me, so it's all about this tart fruitiness, little hit of fresh green apple, but a tart fruitiness from the blackcurrant, heavy dose of smooth leather, and this earthy green spiced oak moss note. It's really comes down to being that simple for me. Doesn't change drastically, lasts forever. The sillage is pretty freaking monstrous on here. While it's not a room filler in projection, it's well beyond arm's reach. It pushes pretty well for the first few hours, but the sillage after that projection settles down is stout. This is a strong fragrance, and you can find it for around $45 from most places. It comes in and out of stock on Kingdom Fragrance. I bought this on eBay for $45. I see it on Amazon all the time in the $40 to $50 range. So you can expect to pay that price, and it's absolutely well worth more than that in my opinion. They could easily charge $100 for this. Once you get your nose on it, if you like this style, you'll love this fragrance. It's top tier in my opinion. That's Afnan Supremacy, not only intense. One that I still stand behind because I like this one more than the Intense. The Intense has gotten all the hype for many years now. You can still get this in the sub $30 price point, and believe me, there's nothing $30 about this in performance or in scent quality or the blend. We're talking about the original Bentley For Men, not Bentley For Men Intense. I'm eager to pull this one out this fall as well. This is not good for the heat. It's spicier and it's boozier than the Intense. Also a little bit smoother. It's not as rough around the edges. It's not such a heavy leather and heavy dose of incense, so it doesn't have quite the raw animalic tone, that bite that the Intense is known for. This is much more smooth, a bit more wearable. In a way, it's more subdued, but it's still a very strong fragrance. This is 8, 10, 12 hours depending on your skin, but I can't imagine anybody getting less than 7 or 8 hours with this fragrance. It's around $25 in most places, $25 to $30, and this is one that's, you know, Bentley For Men, the line for the most part, especially the Intense, has been touted as niche level quality for a cheap steal of a price. The original's the same way. It's in the same boat as the Intense. While redundant, because one's the original, one's the Intense, there's enough differences to where you can kind of lean one way or the other on which you like more, and for me, it's definitely always been Bentley For Men. I do like the Intense. Not knocking the Intense. I just think this suits my taste a little bit more because the spices in the rum are turned up and some of that animalic tone is kind of in the backdrop. There's no smokiness here. It's not as heavy on the bay leaf. The balance is kind of shifted, and there's some notes missing from the original that are in the Intense. So try this one out if you haven't yet, or maybe you weren't a fan of the Intense because maybe it was a little too much for you. You might like the original. I'm talking about Bentley For Men. Last but not least, I find this to be superior in several ways to Bleu de Chanel Eau de Toilette and the Eau de Parfum. It's a little bit darker. The smoky tone here is a bit richer because it's a birch note instead of incense. A lot of similarity, but still not exactly a one-to-one clone by any means to Bleu de Chanel. We're talking about Masoni Parfum pour Homme. This is lovely. This is a great fragrance that can be found $40 or less depending on where you find it. A lot of grapefruit. I believe it's a pink grapefruit note. There's other citruses. It's bright. It's got this dense woody backdrop. It's a little bit of an aquatic feel, but I don't remember any aquatic notes in here. But it's more so about this smoky citrus smell with this warm wood base. Very similar to what Bleu de Chanel offers. But here I find it's a little bit richer overall because it's the substitute of birch for incense. I find the smokiness and the darker nuances to this fragrance to be a little bit darker overall for the scent profile versus Bleu de Chanel. That's where I kind of like this one a bit more. Now, obviously, when we're talking Bleu de Chanel Parfum, League of its own, not talking about that one. But as far as the EDT and EDP, I actually prefer this a little bit more to them. And this is at a fraction of the cost. The EDT for 100 ml is like 110 bucks. It's hard to find Chanel discounted, so you're going to pay close to that. Whereas for this, like I said, discounters, $30 to $45 is pretty much what you can expect to find it for. I think I paid $40, and it's a beautiful fragrance. It's one that I had tried in the past. For some reason or another, never really got a bottle. Finally got a bottle this year, and I've definitely been enjoying it. So if you're looking for a fantastic, much more affordable alternative to Bleu de Chanel that doesn't sacrifice quality, it smells just as pricey as Bleu de Chanel, check out Masoni Parfum Pour Homme. Well, that's the 10 that I have for you today. And until next time, do me a real quick favor. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. I do appreciate all the feedback. And I love hearing from you guys. What are some fragrances that you still can't believe you paid this little for it because it smells like so much more expensive of a scent profile than what you actually paid? I'd love to hear some of you guys' experiences down below. Did you see anything in here that kind of sparked your interest that you've never tried before, that you maybe feel you need to get out and get your nose on? Let me know down in the comments. And until next time, I will say, if you get your hands on any of these 10 and you give them a spray now, pretty confident you'll thank me later. Have a good one, guys.